First of all, a huge thank you for coming. I'm never quite sure who's going to turn up and remember the heart of where things started, along of course with Dave Dillon, who should also be up here. Come on, Dave. What are you doing down there? Dave, founder of STAG, Sheffield Tree Action Groups. The person who really took up the baton after Sword and done so much work on Healy and the trees around Healy and bus lanes. Just again, thank you. Thank you so much for turning up. It really means a lot, and you actually are the campaign, not the people that have stood up here. I'm not going to talk for too long. I really appreciate you being here. I'm not going to be doing the first speech, actually. I'm just comparing and doing a very short speech. I'm actually going to introduce you to the person who started the petition and whom you all know, which is Dr. Dee Bruschetti. And she's part of the mediation, so there's a limit to how much she can say, but she's very kindly agreed to come on and give us the first talk, so to speak. So thank you so much. Over to Deepa.
Hey!
Hi everybody. Save Our Roadside Trees, the SORT campaign, was set up in May 2015 to challenge policy and avert the felling of 11 healthy street trees. Felling is always the last resort, we were repeatedly told. And yet, we knew that there was something deeply flawed in this secret 2.2 billion PFI felling contract with Amy. The SORT campaign petitioned for compliance with urban forestry good practice, which means the sustainable stewardship of our street tree assets, and for their retention using alternative surfacing products, ramping of tarmac to acceptable gradients, and, crucially, a relaxation of curb specifications. These are standard practices in other great cities. So why was it not happening in Sheffield? 3.5 years on, and our suspicions have been proven right. A secret felling target of 17,500 trees and highway specifications that made no allowance for the presence of valuable trees have indeed been revealed. This was the reason that 5,500 mostly healthy street trees had been destroyed since 2012. Trees that had taken 100 years to grow and individually worth tens of thousands of pounds. So what now? To bring you up to date, STAG are currently in a process of mediated talks with Sheffield City Council. As someone involved in the talks, I am bound by confidentiality and cannot speak about detail. Nevertheless, I can confidently say that progress has been made, but also that there is still much work to be done. It is important that we remain future-focused and on what we can co-create together. If Sheffield City Council are serious about resolution, then critical tree value will be factored into a meaningful and transparent decision-making process. This is what we are visioning, and there is hope. That doesn't mean, however, that we should dismiss what happened here 2 years ago on a dark November night, when 2 pensioners were arrested outside their own houses for protecting the 100-year-old trees that they loved. Arrests that have since proven to be wrongful arrests. It was an abuse of civil liberties that will never be forgotten by this community. Thank you all for coming today. People need large trees to live and to breathe. History will prove us right, and we are not going away. Thank you.
Huge thank you, Dr. Shetty. I think the two words that I'm taking away from that are meaningful discussion that's needed, and hope, of course. Those are the two key words I heard. Perhaps you heard some different ones as well. You'll be very pleased to know mine's quite a bit shorter. Firstly, again, just thank you for coming. Apologies for any slight crossover with deeper speech. I'm a fumbling due to my illness. And a call out to hidden heroines such as Helen Mack and others who prefer anonymity. 2 years ago today, 7 structurally sound, mature street trees and all their benefits with the potential to live another 150 years were felled. 2 pensioners in nightwear were arrested, along with 1 young man whose heart would not let him pass by without trying to help. 3 years ago, when we presented the Save Our Rustlings tree petition at full council on the 1st of July, we asked, what sort of city do you want to live in? Sadly, it's not yet one we can say we are proud of. It's not yet one that is significantly better, and we do deserve better, all of us. In fact, we are demanding it. We are demanding it for ourselves. We should not be made to feel guilty, and for future generations. The whole world knows that the 11, arguably 12 actually, when we really looked at it, Rustlings Road trees marked the felling, and the actions taken over them were symbolic of not only the potential fate of around 17,500 other street trees, but the way that decisions to put profit over people seem to be dominating our Sheffield landscape. As Jarvis Cocker so eloquently put it at a tree rally in April 2018, chopping down trees at 4 a.m. is a little bit surreptitious. You're obviously not sure if what you're doing is right. There have been many revelations since Sort spotted and campaigned to save the 11, many say 12, mature, structurally sound Rustlings trees, starting in May 2015. Not least of these is that we still await the publicly promised tree and woodland strategy, whether superseded or not by the contract. It's now been 3 years since it was promised at the Highway Tree Advisory Forum, with media in attendance and many of you as well. Did the dog eat the homework? That we still await being able to view and proof of the drafting of alternative engineering specifications, not just a list of ideas on a piece of A4 paper presented at the Highway Tree Advisory Forum, and of course their significant implementation. That we still await proper acknowledgement that the 17,500 felling target highlighted in 2015 by SORT is indeed a target, as obfuscation around that of what exactly it is still continues. That we still await the implementation of national good practice in terms of risk assessment methodology, and of course in general around the sustainable management of our urban trees. Nor must we be fooled into thinking that just because a tree still stands after it's been planed and tarmacked around, such as this one named after journalist Ellen Beardmore, that it's not somehow damaged by that which has taken place around it. It was beholden upon those in power to retain it, and many others, with appropriate and already paid for alternatives such as flexible paving, smaller curbs, ramping and more. Instead, we remain in the perilous position of people still being persecuted, and I don't use that word lightly, for asking pertinent questions as we work to protect ours and others' futures. So please put your hearts together today to remember what we have lost, and our mission for the future. Thank you so much for coming. The campaign's you. Right, so we'll just move on. Thank you so much. I'd like really to bring in, if I may, Professor Jenny Hockey. Frida isn't talking tonight. I don't blame her. It really has been quite, she might like you, but it's been quite traumatic. But I'm going to hand over to Professor Jenny Hockey, and Frida Brayshaw may say a few words as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Just come on. Yep. Well, thanks very much, Louise. I'm just going to offer one or two reflections 2 years on from that night. I mean, first of all, to say that I go on missing the tree. And I go on feeling the gap and feeling its absence. That yes, there's a sapling in its place, but I find that quite hard to love, which is a sad statement because it's a living thing. But in a way, it's just a memorial to what should have been there. And just on a minor detail, at one time when I used to get up and clean my valet's windows, which isn't a very frequent activity, they would be covered in a kind of sort of what I would call a healthy green slime. When I've been up there recently, that green is not there anymore, and what is there is black speckles, which I can't easily get off the window, and which makes me think particulates. And it tells me something about the change in the air quality immediately outside the house where I live and the house where my grandchildren come. So that's how that gap is I'm still feeling it. As regards being arrested 2 years ago, no regrets. It was great to see it so prominently featured and picked up on by the press. And before that it had been very hard work to get press attention, because the removal of trees, street trees by railway lines, etc., goes on all over the country. But we have really become, the campaign has really become a big focus now. So, I'm very pleased that was possible, and that Frida and I could make a difference in that way. But I also want to take this opportunity to say a huge, huge thank you to all of the people who have given an incredible amount subsequently, who started off within SORT, and who've continued to give so generously of their time. And I think that what I've learned is just that democracy is far more costly than I think it should be, and that I would have imagined it to be. That it takes over, that actually standing up for a cause, particularly the environment, takes over people's lives, has an enormous cost in terms of health and well-being. And many people have had to pay that sort of price. So a huge thank you to all of those people. I hope they know who they are. People in SORT, people in STAG, who've achieved so much. And I think just one of my favourite quotes, really, as I say, we're supposedly operating within a democracy, and we're protecting the environment. As President Macron said to Trump, there is no planet B. Thank you.
Okay, perhaps we could just give a little round of applause, if you don't mind, awfully, for Frida. She's just a bit traumatised. Don't blame her, we're all a bit traumatised. That's that felling of democracy, I think, puts us all a bit sickness in the way. I'm going to now ask if it's okay for Councillor Alison Teal to come and speak. She's been so pivotal, not just obviously in working in her own ward, but let's face it, for all of us across the entire city, and I might add even across the country, because I do look at a few of her tweets now and again. I suggest you do too. So I'll just pass the mic over to Alison. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louise. So I began my life in this campaign as a resident, and I've continued in this campaign as a resident. So despite the fact that I was elected about a year after I got involved, I discovered when I joined the council that I had access to the same amount of information as any other member of the public. So that was quite extraordinary, I thought. The Director of Legal and Governance told all new councillors who were in opposition that we were entitled to have access to the same information as any member of the public. So I haven't known any more than anyone else about what's going on in the city since I began, which I think again is quite extraordinary. So this council seem intent on keeping secrets about everything. So if we want information about what's happening in our city, we invariably have to do freedom of information requests in order to know what's going on. And I wonder why that is. And I think that Rustlings Road is the epitome of an example of a very well kept secret that didn't ought to have been kept a secret. Because wouldn't you think that the top minds of the police, the council and Amy, when they got together to organise their response to residents' uprising and outrage about what was happening to their trees, wouldn't you have thought that they would have come up with something better than a dawn raid to crush the residents of the city? It's just absolutely extraordinary. And I think that that gives us an inkling into how come they keep secrets. I think that they refuse to be scrutinised because they lack confidence in their ability to make good decisions. And I've seen that continuing lack of confidence in their ability to make decisions on every issue you could possibly imagine. They resist scrutiny at every turn. And because they have such a big majority, there's nothing we can really do about it yet, which is why the campaign has remained apolitical, but essentially there is only one political solution, and that is to get a better balance in the council so that opposition councillors can have access to information. And there's a really, really wonderful grassroots organisation has come about as a result of this issue. Now people are recognising it, and that's called It's Our City. So It's Our City is set to try and do something about the way this city is governed. And Amber, superhero, give her a clap please. Amber is here tonight. She is determined to get more signatures. She never stops, this woman. She is absolutely fantastic. And I hope that you will seek Anne out this evening and make sure you've signed that petition if you haven't already, because It's Our City can potentially make a really big difference to the way that we are governed here. I think it'll make a really positive and good difference. So I really support that. I encourage you to support it too. And as for Ellen, I'm really proud to have actually participating into the fact that she's still standing, and so for me Ellen is really, really important tree. They tried to convince us that Ellen needed to come down because she was unbalanced. Of course she was unbalanced because of what they did to her. On a recent trip to Australia, I was really excited to see tree upon tree, very close to buildings, cut like Ellen. So they routinely trim the branches close to the building, and it's a really common arboricultural practice in Australia. So I'm pretty confident that Ellen is okay. They tried to convince us that she was structurally disabled by their actions. We don't have to believe that anymore. I've got lots of photographic proof. So long may Ellen stand, and yeah, thank you to everybody.
Another superb speech. Thank you so much, Alison. And of course, we're very fortunate as well to have Natalie Bennett here, who tells nothing but good sense. So I'm handing the mic over quickly.
Well, thank you very much. And hello, Rustlings Road! I think there's lots that we can celebrate now, and I think I want to focus on the positives. But one of the things I think we first have to celebrate, because whenever I think about Rustlings Road, I think about two things. That morning I got here at about 11 a.m. and it was very cold and pelting down with rain. I'm sure you all remember that. And one of the things that struck me that morning, I don't know if she's here, but there was a young woman standing in a garden, determinedly standing, I think it was under Ellen, it was one of the trees, protecting the trees. And she didn't have any socks on. And I looked at her ankles and thought, you must be so cold, and your feet. And I think for me, that's a symbol of the sacrifices that so many people have made. People have sacrificed sleep, people have sacrificed huge amounts of time. And, for a lot of the time during the tree protests, the council was trying to say, oh, it's just a few people doing that. And yet, actually, we know across the city, thousands and thousands of people gave up their time, patrolled their streets, woke up in the middle of the night. Remember when they were doing that out with handsaws at 2 a.m, the number of people who must have been waking up and sticking their head out the window to see if anything was happening. So many people have put so much into this campaign, and it is absolutely a people's campaign. And I think we have to say, of course the talks are going on. We haven't got a conclusion yet, but we have one piece of definite good news, which is they saved the Western Road trees. And of course they saved the wonderful Ellen. But I think it's worth looking at what Sheffield has achieved, focusing on the positive here. Because the Green Party, probably about 18 months ago now, we had a visit from the Taiwan Green Party, the Taiwanese Green Party. And we sat down and started to tell them about the trees. And they said, oh no, you don't have to tell us, we've seen it on our television news, we know all about it. And what happened here on Rustlings Road, it literally went around the world. I've spoken to people from Australia, people from Canada, people who've seen it on their evening news. And that, of course, is really important for people to know that they can act democratically and make a difference. But one of the other big differences that all of you collectively have made is there is a new focus in the UK and more broadly on the value of street trees. And this is your legacy to the UK, to the world. And some of you may have seen a tweet, it was a few days ago now. In Delhi, in India, they're fighting to save street trees, and they're referencing Sheffield and your fight. That's what you've achieved. And I think this is a hugely important message. If we think about today, down in London, right now, there's a group called Extinction Rebellion, who is out there being active. And they've, I think, been inspired by groups like Sheffield, Stag, to think, yes, I'm not going to sit back and say, isn't it terrible, and yell at the television. I'm going to get out and be active. And you can look at that, look at so much that's happening around the world and say, I was a part of that. And one of the things that I think focus on hope, the way the world is now is profoundly unstable. The one thing that won't continue is things are not going to stay the same. Privatisation. I was at an event last week talking about how much damage privatisation has done and PFI contracts. And I said, I think we are past peak privatisation. And Sheffield street trees, the whole story of how ludicrous putting private profit before public good has been in this city, you've helped to illustrate that to the world. So I think we can really say, Sheffield has a proud radical political tradition. It's not talked about enough. Sheffield was the home of the first women's suffrage society in the UK. Sheffield, it was the home of Edward Carpenter. He was the first green before they'd even invented the word green. And yes, he did wear sandals. But, Sheffield, we have led in the past. We are leading now on street trees. As Alison mentioned, the It's Our City campaign has the potential to absolutely lead on fighting for democracy. We have a Britain that's not a democracy now. We know that in Sheffield. We have had to fight so hard for the control of our streets, our trees, our environment. But what we can do now is not sit back and hopefully in a few months be able to say basically we've saved all the trees that are left, but say we've had this victory, let's fight on to the next victories and make Sheffield and the UK a democracy, and let's see democracy around the world. Thank you.
Wonderful, Natalie, and always inspiring. What's also been absolutely wonderful about this campaign, apart from yourselves, of course, has been it's really brought us all together in terms of being cross-party, and I guess that's why I'm comparing really, because I'm just going to slip in at this point that we mustn't forget that what Nick Clegg did for us as well. I think that kind of gets a little bit lost in the milieu. He was there from the very beginning and absolutely horrified. So I just want to bring that up. And of course, I guess in many ways here to represent him in the Lib Dems today and also is Councillor Shafat Mohammed, who also was absolutely pivotal in his getting that very first tree petition in. Yeah. So I just want to again cross-party hearts together. Shafat, would you like to come and say a few words? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you everyone else for attending. 17th of November will be an infamous day in Sheffield's history for many years to come. It will be the day when the City Council and its police service lost its moral compass. It's a day when they fought, turning up at 4 o'clock in the morning, knocking people out of bed at 5, arresting any dissenting residents regardless of their age and their good standing in the community, and basically saying might is right, and actually took away 7 of the 8 trees that they came for. They may have won that day in their opinion, but actually they lost. They lost their moral authority. They become infamous. As Natalie and Alison have said earlier about the international nature of this, I went to Kashmir in Pakistan, often described as heaven on earth. And the first thing when they found out I was from Sheffield said, oh, is that the place where the City Council hates trees? Because they've got a lot of trees in Kashmir. And I said, well, the City Council might, but actually the residents have stood steadfast against it. And I was proud to tell them that I represent the area where the first major petition kicked off, and we actually got 16,500 signatures because of the efforts of some of the good people who stood on the stage here and others on the footpath there to say to the council, it might be 8 trees, it might not mean too much for you, but actually for us it's important that we actually protect our heritage. And actually, that council continued to lose its moral compass. In a Donald Trump style, if you dissented against it, it decided to throw you out. Donald Trump threw out the journalist from his White House that tried to throw a member of the opposition out from the council, and I wasn't going to stand for it. They were happy to throw Alison out. What they didn't want is the rest of us to walk out. And I said, no, it doesn't matter which party you are, the opposition should have a voice. And in her opinion, she had a very valid reason to challenge what the council was doing. Now, the council said it was going to cost thousands upon thousands, if not millions of pounds to save the trees. Last year, in a council report to Cabinet, it said saving the Western Road trees would cost £500,000. That's what it said. There was no other option. That was it. Lo and behold, you fast forward a few months, and what's happened? That same council and same officers have come back, and now it's not going to cost us a penny. It's all within the contract. So the question is, all those trees we've lost, they could have been saved if there was the will to save them. We can't bring those trees back, just as we can't bring Delilah and all the other trees back. But what we can do is stay steadfast and say the 300 remaining trees, they have to be saved. If you can save the ones on Western Road, there is no reason for you not to save the others, and they daren't come back for Ellen, regardless of what they're going to do. So I think we should stay steadfast, work across parties, work as individuals. For me, it's always trees. People said to me, oh, it's just politics. And I said, well, you need to look at my background. You need to know where I come from. I come from Tinsley. I was chair of Tinsley Forum in the early mid-90s. We set up the Tinsley Tree Project many, many years before I ever got involved in politics. We've all got a background in the environment and wanting to protect it. But it was about actually standing with residents and supporting them. And there's going to be many other challenges. And the last thing I'll say to you is that we need to change the council. You can't change your city when you've got those elected members who still doggedly sneer at people who want to save their trees. And we're going to try through It's Our City to try to change the way the city council works. 84 councils elected, but only 10 of them make decisions. The rest are there to scrutinise, and often the scrutiny is loaded against opposition councillors. I'll urge you all to support that petition. Let's see where it goes. I would prefer the leader of council just to see sense and realise that actually I think I've got it wrong, let's change the way, but she's not going to change her ways, we've got to force her. So thank you everyone for coming, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I will stay loyal to the likes of Dave Dillner, Deepa and Louise, because they are the real pioneers of the tree campaign. They've had to endure some very personalised attacks from the council, and obviously it's affected their lives, but you know what, we want to pay tribute to them. So round of applause to all these tree campaigners, thank you.
Thank you, that was really brilliant, and really everybody come together.
Yeah, still on.
Just thank you so much, Shaka, that was absolutely superb. I know there's some talk as well about there being 300 trees, and I know there's some certain hidden heroes and hidden heroines, and they will be saying at this point, oh please, please tell everybody it's so much more than 300. We seem to have got hooked on the 300 figure at the moment. The 17,500, it could be more. So please stay wary of those numbers. They change, right? We've watched them in the media change as we put pressure on them in 2015. We've watched those figures go all over the place. So keep a sharp eye on those yourselves. It's more than 300 and got a lot more to look after. Now, just want to, if everybody grab themselves a tea light, you're very welcome to take the ones from the front. They're all the safe ones without flames. And if you would be good enough to safely and gently cross over to the other side of the road, and if you'd be good enough to walk with us down to Delilah's replacement, we use the word replacement very loosely. Actually, he doesn't want me to ask him to do this because he's a very modest man and he's very keen that sort have some recognition. But I'm extremely aware of the fact that when we were on our knees, this man stepped forward. And of course, it's Dave Dillner who founded the Sheffield Trees Action Group. So I think it would be very symbolic actually if Dave was to walk us from the front with Deepa and myself and of course the other stalwarts. But if he would walk us, because it's symbolic, he took us on, yeah, to the next bit. And then what Dave's going to do is he's not going to bore us rigid but what's going to happen is he's going to give a very, very short little speech when we reach Delilah's so-called replacement. And I think what we all know is hardly a replacement. So is that okay with you? Because the campaign's yours. Is that okay?
Yep.
Brilliant. We heart you. Cross safely. I will be straight over. Thank you ever so much. Stood on, and his property was stood on in order to save the tree.
As long as you're not Amy.
As long as we're not Amy. We're definitely not Amy. Right, so thank you so much, Luke. Sorry, that was very remiss of me. And now, of course, I'll pass you over to Dave Dillner as founder of STAG.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming. 2 years ago today, they came like thieves in the night. They came with a small army of policemen in the dark, 3:15, 3:30, 4:15, across the road at the back of the park. People would be woken up by cars being dropped off a low loader. They'd already started taking people's cars before they decided to knock them up. They took Delilah, which was the tree that stood here. One Sunday morning, after being at a Dr. Ian Rotherham talk the preceding week, I was out here walking and I stood under Delilah in the summer. And I stood and I looked up into the crown. And it was quite an experience. It was incredible. The tree actually hummed with the bees. It was just an incredible experience to stand here and enjoy that moment. This is what these wise guys in Sheffield City Council call a replacement? I ask you. I mean, words fail me really. It's not a replacement. And I'll tell you something else, because of the species, it never will be a replacement. It will never attain the crown that Delilah had. Delilah was a healthy, mature tree, a beautiful specimen, a joy to behold. Delilah was one of almost, well, it's 4,500 plus trees that they've stolen. And the vast majority of those trees were healthy trees, mature trees. This is the same council that are now telling us that people are going to be, well, the buses and taxis are going to have to pay £50 a day, is it, and £10 a day, because they want to improve the air quality, especially around the centre of town. You know, Fitzholland Square. If you've been to Fitzholland Square lately, I was there 3 years ago when they started taking down the 6 plane trees outside what was the old post office. If you go in to Fitzholland Square now, it's one of the busiest bus routes. There's a taxi rank in there, stood idling their engines all day. The level of pollution in Fitzholland Square has more than doubled. But they want to improve the air quality in the middle of town. So, I don't know, you know, I'd rather get the idea that if you stood at one side of them and looked in one ear, you'd be able to see straight through to the other side. There'd be daylight streaming through. I mean, I don't know what else you're supposed to think. Well, they better think again, because we are Sheffielders. We are powerful people. We are peaceful people. We do hold that power. We will carry on saying no. And when you go back for those 3 trees on Western Road that Councillor Dagnall has told us are decayed, well, I'm going to tell him they're not. They are not decayed. I was out there with a very, very highly qualified ARB looking at those trees last week. Those trees are not decayed. The decision to carry on and take those 3 trees is a political decision. It is not an arboricultural decision. So if you get to see this, Lewis Dagnall, if you get to see this Julie Dore, expect a fight. Bring your injunctions, do whatever you want, but you're not having those 3 trees unless you can produce a report. And I do hope I'm not treading on the negotiating team's toes here. This is purely a personal opinion. I'm no longer part of the Stag Steering Group. This is purely my own opinion. But the fight will go on. We're not going away. Power to the peaceful. Thank you for coming.
Again, just an absolute huge thank you to all the good-hearted and right-minded people that came tonight. It's your campaign, just to say that again. And also to say it was so important to, that's the right word, to end on the place where democracy was seen to have died. I think it was just a huge and sickening shock to many people, because when that tree fell, it felt like democracy had fallen, and that was hence all the wreaths and the RIP. So I think it was important, but out of it comes resurrection, and it got bigger, didn't it? Because the roots got deeper and the branches got wider, and that's you. So thank you so much. God bless, and thank you. Bye.
Come on.
Thanks so much. It was just to say, if you still haven't signed the petition, please do before you go, if we can see in the dark. And we know it's our city have got such a lot more work to do to get this message out. And anybody that wants to get involved in that, if they have a word with me, we've got leaflets. You can take a paper petition yourself and fill it, you know, with workmates, neighbours, friends. So, you know, we need you. We are a big community. And as Dave says, power to the people, power to communities. And that's what this movement is all about. So please, please help us to get this message out. Talk to me afterwards, sign this, and thanks so much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye.
Says Jenny on, everyone.